Well, this is Robert from DSP Plug. I'm just on foot right now. It's the middle of the night. And I was thinking about the bike that's on its way to me. Because it's a true 500 watt. I had an Angway EP2 Pro. Really exciting. But the problem was is it was just too big. Ultimately, there was the capability to make it a true 500 watt. Obviously, they found a motor that was capable of taking different amperes, amperages, and different calculations, so they must have brought it down to unity. They balanced it within a certain range. And that's all good, but what about a bike with smaller tires? More on that. So in my mind, I guess the tire size I prefer is 16 inch. Better than all of them 15, 16 inches. I'm getting a bike now with 14 inches, and what kind of boggled me was that they're not allowing 14-inch tires or 15, only 20 in Tennessee. And to be honest, when I think of that, I say to myself, what about people with storage issues? You know? I mean, you gotta think about everything. But here's what it really comes down to is connection contact, right? With every size of tire, the amount of contact that you have with the ground defines its ability to continually move it forward. Physics is pushing against it. The dirt, the rabble, the rocks, gravel, all of those are things that are going to be things that connect with the tire itself. But that is the really great thing with a 15-inch tire. Now, if I was to provide any kind of official recommendation, what I would say is that beyond 15 inches, 14 inches is a bit small. You'd have to be a very skilled rider, but then scooters exist, don't they? Right? Why throw this anathema in there, this contradiction? What I think is that it is the width of the tires, the gauge of the tires, that becomes relevant and important. But moreover, the rims themselves, any tire that's below 20 inches has to be made out of some kind of solid steel product. Spokes just won't do, just not strong enough. Certain spokes could. I think there's 16 spoke or 20, 25 or 30 spoke designs. I think spokes on a tire like that wouldn't necessarily be as strong as they could. They'd always have to be tightened. You'd always have to be either hiring a mechanic or learn how to tighten spokes yourselves. And that can be pretty great, but it's pretty high maintenance. I would probably choose to go with an all steel rim for that kind of application. But moreover, following what I'd already explained about the width of the tire itself, for these tires like that are 14 to 16 inches, I'd say 2.5 inches wide. Beyond that, 3. Beyond 20, 4, or even 3.75. And the reason is the apex of the turn and the quality and the ability of the rider so as to outmaneuver obstacles and to avoid collision. Safety is the primary concern. But moreover, you'd have to be over 20 inches to go into any highway zone. Now, there are certain highways. I'm not talking about, gigantic highways. We're just talking about the very fact that people in rural and urban areas have to be able to consider that there is obstacles, gravel, dirt, stones, all of these things, wetness, rain, mud, puddles, all of these things are going to be hazards. They're going to be things that they have to consider. So with that in mind, I would stick with my recommendations, and I would suggest, frankly, it comes down to contact. Now, though people say bigger is better, it is not even for a second. And that is the joy of having a tire that's 2.5. And maybe I can correct myself, 14 to 16 inches or something like that. Maybe even 2.75. But the problem is the apex of the turn and the require of the tilt of the vehicle. It needs to tilt, so you have to consider mud. But if you were to ask a physicist who was willing to aptly test a 16-inch or 15-inch tire, he'd tell you the amount of energy required for a 14, 15, and 16-inch tire is about half as much. That's the truth. It all comes down to applied physics and logic. But in certain cities where there is sprawls of houses, and then there's long stretches leading to stores down highways, I can certainly understand why you might want to have a larger tire. But in my mind, 20 inches is the best, because you're not going to have to worry about warping. That brings pollution down. The less warps, the better. The less spokes, the better, in my opinion. Though it is kind of wasteful on the rims, but in long term, there is going to be less detriment to the environment because that tire is going to continue spinning. But with all this in mind, as interesting and as practical as it might be for me to say these things, boy, is it ever exciting to hear about these bikes from France. These bikes with the ability to charge themselves on the fly. I mean, don't get me wrong, the idea has been around for a while, but there was a video on YouTube where a woman talked about her ability to get where she needs to go down hills, and because she did that, she was able to get from point A to point B without a battery. I like that. Good for the environment, good for me, good for you. Toodaloo.